I'm Josh Dolan. That's David Graham. And this is the Have Rods Will Travel podcast. It's only 6 intros later, no big deal. All right, David. Well, I am coming off of a day of driving and chasing down brown trout, and I smell terrible. So luckily, we don't have smell-o-vision, and nobody can hear how bad I stink. But it's been quite the day.
Well, you know what? It's Valentine's Day, so hey, listen, folks. At the time this is recorded, this is Valentine's Day, and Josh Dolan is on record as saying he did not spend that day with his girlfriend. He elected to go and spend time with fish. He's a horrible, terrible example of what a man should be in providing for his woman.
Correct.
And I'm sitting here talking to him instead of spending time with my wife, but that's neither here nor there.
I actually got the green light to go today, so that just shows you why
our
permission. It's why our 12-year relationship has worked. She's supported me through all this crap. But
there you go.
I'm working at this Virginia mass strangler thing, and I'm sitting one species away from this benchmark that only one other person has done, and it's eating me alive that I'm not there yet. So I'm going any chance I can get, and this brown trout has given me like just fits for years now, and we just have a state in which we just don't grow a lot of big brown trout. So I'm more or less chasing the stocking truck, and it's just a terrible thing. So I had a day full of running around the mountains on 3 hours of sleep trying to catch fish. I got a 3.5 pounder, but they got to be 5 pounds for Virginia trophy requirements. So,
well, there's times where I look at your style of fishing and I am like envious of how goal oriented you are and how you have like objectives and like levels that you like reach. And I'm like, man, that's probably the better way to do it. Like to be having something you're chasing. And then there's other times where I'm like, not getting it would probably piss me off. So maybe it's better that I just meandering aimlessly through this fishing thing with no goals and no idea of where I'm going or what I'm doing.
But the amount of money I've thrown at brown trout and not really had, I mean, I've caught 4 that have been within like striking distance, but the amount of money and time and effort you throw into this thing just to basically like, I came back today with basically nothing to show for it. It's such an aggravating thing.
I guess the risk and reward is a lot bigger swing because like if you do get it, you're probably on like a lot more excited than if you didn't necessarily have like an objective in mind. Yeah. Whereas if you don't get it, you're a little more pissed off than if you're like, oh, well, tomorrow's the next day.
Yeah, it's just like with every other species, you can sort of like, you feel like you're moving the ball down the field. Like, okay, I didn't catch one this trip, but I figured a little bit out. And you keep doing that until you're successful. With the trout here, it's like they go and they'll put a big trout and stock this water, and then all the rednecks come in and catch them all up, and then there's none left. And like you're basically just every time you go, you're throwing a Hail Mary, because there's no body of water really where those fish get to thrive. Like, it's just every time you go out, you're basically, it's all or nothing. You either catch it or you don't really learn anything new. It's just a pain in the ass. I was driving back to film this and I checked we get like announced where they stock. Like each day they announce like, oh, this body of water got stocked. Well, I saw one got stocked with brown trout on my way home. I'm like, I'm just going to swing by there. It's right off the interstate. I'm going to just make a couple casts. Maybe just something crazy will happen. I pull up and there's already a dozen people in a 100-yard stretch. I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I talked to our buddy Grant on the way home, like, dude, I don't know how I'm going to catch this brown trout, but it's not going to be doing that.
Well, are they stalking trophy-sized brown trout, or are they stalking baby ones that grow up?
It's like a 95 to 5% mix. So it's like,
that's interesting.
It's put and take water. So like we have special reg waters where like everything has to go back. but it's up in the mountains. Like they still get harvested. Just nobody, you still have the dude that doesn't give a shit. And he's taking the fish anyway. So there's a couple of places where you could get lucky, but like a lot of those special regulation places are like very fly fishing oriented, and I'm not talented enough at fly fishing to like have success doing that. So there's like no real body of water for what I do. Like I need to be doing it on rod and reel, but I don't want to be fishing the places where they harvest everything. So
I don't want to open this can of worms, but it's like me as a guy on the outside looking in that does not do that style of fishing, that finds it interesting. I'm like, I sit and sort of analyze and unpack the different layers of it. I think to myself, is there a regulatory body that's really like analyzing these catches? It just seems very open for dishonesty. Is this all on an honor system? I mean, can somebody go out there and cast net a record? And
yeah. So it's funny.
I hate to think that, but it's just like, if my mind went there that quickly, somebody else out there, there's some people out there shitting around.
Yeah.
I hate to think that, but it's just like my mind went straight there. Like, how are people rigging this to cheat?
It's funny you mentioned that because they kind of revamped the program at the beginning of 2020 for that reason. You had dudes going out and catching, 15 citations in a day.
Ugh.
And very clearly fishing like trout stock pond, like not trout ponds, not ponds where you go trout fishing, like literally casting in the trout pond. You can see the concrete in the back of the photos. Like you're fishing the pond that they get the stock fish from. Like you don't just go out and catch 20 citation brown trout in a weekend. That doesn't happen. This is like, the thing is, there's certain guys. I'm going to do this without getting too specific.
Here's your blue ribbon. You're the winner.
Well, that's Grant and I. we have this conversation. We talked about it in our podcast, the last one we just uploaded, number 3. But there's certain guys that treat this way more than what it is. Like it's kind of frustrating to me at this point because it's like I'm doing all this work to catch a brown trout, and nobody's like, I'm so deep in the hole now that I can't back out. Like I've gotten 24 out of 30. Like I have to finish it, but it's just, I can't not do it at this point. So I have to keep going. And ultimately I'm like going to get successful.
Otherwise you're a quitter.
Yeah. I'm going to complete the program and it's going to get me nowhere. But that's the funny thing with like these guys that cheat. Like there's a few individual people who have gotten a lot of success in that, where they go and they'll catch a fish and they have absolutely no proof of it. Like they just say, yep, I caught this incredibly hard species, but I didn't take a photo of it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to post a photo online, but I got a witness signature. Cool. Like it's all an honor system. So if you're lying, you just lie.
Well, like, you know how I am, and I know it's a point of frustration for you that I'm always the guy that's like, that's a lie. That ain't real. I'm the guy, but I think if it stinks enough as being lying, cheating, or stealing, like if it like resonates with something ain't right, that's a lie.
It's kind of sad because I had this one particular person who I really looked up to, and he was big into, he was my idol as I got started doing all this. And the more I did it and the deeper I got into it, the more I realized, like, you don't just go out and catch 10, 15, 20 citations in a day or a weekend. Like all these crazy number. I don't care if you're
not every weekend anyway.
No, but like
every now and then you get a home run weekend, but
sure. But like not with brown trout. You sure right. Like you go catch 10 perch citations. I can see that they're schooling fish, but like when I check the records and I see that you've logged 300 trout citations in 2 weeks or a week and a half, and then I go and I find photos of it, and you can very blatantly see that you're standing on like poured concrete. What trout stream do you know of that has poured concrete that you can stand on?
The fish is wearing a collar.
Yeah, and they're all tags. They're all beat to shit. They look like they've been through a blender. Like they're very obviously trout stock pond fish. Like I'm almost certain that this particular angler has went to a popular outfitter that takes the fish and puts them in the stream so you can catch them. I'm almost like, I feel it in my soul that this dude went and offered them money to go fish the ponds that they stock from. Like I'm
Ugh.
in fact, if you had a gun to my head, I would say this guy has did this. Also, like, there's one particular citation species that like only 3 or 4 have like ever been caught in the state of Virginia. It's a very hard one. And like, you go back through and you look at the weekend in which he caught it, and the date in particular in which he caught it, and the water body in which he caught it from, the river he caught it from, and you correlate that. And it just so happens that that river was in major flood stage during the day. Like, you caught it on, whatever month, whatever day. I'm not getting too specific because people listen to this, hopefully. But you go and you look and you're like, oh, you caught this incredibly hard fish to catch. It's like, cool, good on you. And you send me this, you send the angling world this entire detailed list of like, or not list, but like this elaborate, like, we know these guys, the guys that use too much information to make you believe them. They just like go over the top. It was this happened and this happened. And then
I charted the moon phases.
Yeah. And tap on my line, and I set the hook, and the water was swirling. Like, they use just descriptive. They paint the picture, so there's no way
the information overload where you just have to blindly follow and trust.
There's no way they're making this up. It would be too psychotic for this to be fake.
Yeah.
But then you just happen to look at the day they caught it, and then you just happen to look at the river they caught it. It's a very small river. It's a very specific area, and you look at their rendition of the story, and then you realize that particular day and weekend, the river was literally flooding people's houses. So there's no way you did what you said you did. Like, you're lying about the day, you're lying. Something's wrong here. And then you harvest the fish, but then you give it away. Have you ever heard about heard somebody doing that? You harvest the fish, like, you spent your entire life trying to catch this one fish, right?
With non-game fish, I hear that. I gave that to Betsy, the lady down the street. Like, no, that thing's in a trash can somewhere.
You kept this fish, and you're gonna get it mounted. That's your full intention. You've worked for years to catch this thing. You go to get it mounted, and then you don't do your normal routine of taking a photo in the boat or at the boat ramp or on the bank. You take it back to a parking lot and you take a photo with it. It's kind of weird to begin with. Like, you took it all the way back to like a hotel room parking lot, took the photo on a tripod, and then you give the fish away that you had full intention of getting mounted. You give that fish away to like a hungry family. This fish that you worked years of your life for. Why wouldn't you just give those people?
That's genius.
Like, but see, now there's no proof that you caught it, or there's no proof.
But if you're openly skeptical, now you're questioning their good nature to give to a needy family. What are you, some kind of hateful bastard?
Yeah.
That's the most frustrating thing about all that to me, is what I'm listening to is like, naturally you're going to be skeptical, but if you're skeptical out loud, you run the very big risk of sounding like a hater if you don't have some damn good proof and evidence to bring to the table.
Right. Which is why I've never publicly come to the table with any of this, because it looks bad on me because I'm trying to do the same thing.
Hater.
Yeah, right. I'm trying to do the same thing. So if I'm like, hey, look at literally this litany of discrepancies here. Didn't catch it where you said you caught it. Like, the river was at flood stage. There's no proof of the size because you're
jealous.
You're forced perspective, and then the fish is gone. You have to then go catch a similar species to get it painted like the fish that you caught. So that's one small example of like a bunch of stuff with this one particular dude. But I've never said his name. I don't talk about him. I keep it like very vague, so nobody knows about it, because I'm not trying to pick a fight with anybody. I'm just trying to do my own thing. But it's very frustrating when you do everything on the up and up, and somebody can just do like you're talking about, and just the truth is what I say it is. So it's like, cool.
That's that's the risk you run of having objectives and goals is
Yeah.
you leave yourself open to being mad when somebody passes you in the race.
Yeah. It's
take the tortoise and the hare approach.
Right. So it's, I've always, I broke away from that guy as we got deeper down the path. I kind of split off and
yeah, that's disappointing.
Went my own way. And dude, I do this like you don't win anything. You do it and then it's over with. There's no grand prize at the end. Like nobody cares other than the other people that are doing it. So it's like I've gotten to the point with this where I get a lot of enjoyment around just like traveling and catching fish and doing it for me. And then the rest of it, whatever happens beyond that, just happens. I'm not forcing anything. So I don't know.
It's a good reason to get up and get out early that you might have not otherwise had like as much of an eagerness and an ambition to hop out of bed and get ready for the day if you're just casual angling.
It's just giving yourself a goal. Like I tried recording my own podcast yesterday and it went horribly wrong, but the topic in that podcast was angler recognition programs and why to do it. It just gives new anglers or anglers that are looking for a new challenge, it gives them a goal to work towards. So if you're if you pick up fishing tomorrow and you're like, all right, how do I quantify whether or not I'm getting better? Like, okay, well, here's your trophy requirements for largemouth bass. If you want to do this, keep working till you catch that. And then once you catch it, try to catch it different ways. And then it helps give your angling purpose. That way you're going to the water with an objective and then you can get better. You get better doing it. So.
Some people by nature, that's an interesting topic. I hope that you tried to re-record that one because that's one even I'll listen to, even though it's something I've been interested in maybe trying here in Florida. But I also know it's like there's people out there that their reason for not going fishing might be feeling like, well, what are you doing? I mean, you're just wasting time. You're just burning hours on the water. Like some people I think need that kind of like an objective approach towards anything they do in life. Like that's just how their character type is. Whereas then you got people like me who just sort of meander about aimlessly.
Well, that's the cool thing about fishing, man, because like it can be relaxing where you're soaking a bobber and a worm and you don't have to think about it. Or it can be Kevin Van Dam hyper competitive,
and make a lot of money. I mean, those are the people that end up
making a living doing it.
Those are the people that end up, I mean, those are the people that drive the industry as well. And then there's people like me who are just kind of riding the wave, but it's those competitive minded people that are.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just where me and that path intersected. Like I clearly wasn't going to play college sports anywhere. So it's like, all right, I need an outlet for this.
Yeah.
And I guess this will be a good segue into we filmed the first podcast and didn't really give any background about ourselves whatsoever. So if you haven't heard any other podcasts of ours, we'll go ahead and give you a background about ourselves now. So I graduated high school. I've fished my entire life. My dad got me into fishing. My grandparents got me into fishing and always took a back seat to sports. I played baseball, football, really enjoyed it. But one, I didn't have the grades to go to college, but I also wasn't big enough, wasn't tall enough to like play offensive line in college successfully, unless I wanted to go to a small school. Didn't want to do that. So I ended up taking that like competitive nature that has always been in me. And I just applied it to fishing, and fishing went from the back seat to the front seat.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the Virginia Angler Recognition Program and the Master Angler List and just kind of took it from there. And it's helped me to give my fishing structure. And I've started from 0 trophy fish caught all the way up to 24 species and a state record and a world record, and like got to travel to all these different states and catch alligator gar and white sturgeon, Goliath grouper, and all this stuff. And it all started from that angler recognition program, that first trophy I ever caught, and then just opening Pandora's box and just seeing how far I could take it. And it's cool, man, because like when you're a kid, you look at like, I don't know if you ever did this, but we were issued laptops when we were in high school. Our county gave us like Dell laptops. So the reason why I didn't go to college is I'm on the Virginia angling state page, like looking at, we had this thing
with your
called a
school computer.
yeah, yeah. It was a government website, so they let me
I'm
on it.
studying.
Yeah, but like we had this thing called the shad cam. So every spring we'd had an underwater camera at one of the dams, so you could watch like all the shad swim.
You're watching fish go by when you're supposed to be listening to an economics class.
Yeah, I had a 2.0 GPA for this reason. So, but you're watching blue cats swim by and carp and all this stuff, and then you also like you're getting on there like looking up the state records, and then you're sitting there in class like, man, I'd love to have my name on the state record list one day. And it's like that's like you just you file that away. You're like, I want to do that when I get older, and then you get on this path and you keep walking down it, and eventually you catch that record fish, and then you look back and you're like, oh damn, 16 17-year-old me would be losing his shit right now at everything I've been able to do. So that's, I don't know, man, that's me and that's my background. But that's just also like, that's where my angling comes from. It comes from that passion of a kid in high school knowing his sports career was going to come to an abrupt end, and you didn't do well enough in college, and you didn't know what you wanted to go study in college. So it's like, all right, I'm going to pick up this fishing thing and take it as far as I can take it. And I've been able to get to these levels that I've set goals for myself, and I've been able to catch these record fish and do all this crazy stuff. And I don't know, it's just crazy how life works out. Like I got into working for my dad and doing contract work, so my schedule was a little bit more flexible. And I look back at like, man, if I'd have went to college and then been hung up on that college debt, and then like felt like I had to continue a career because I went to like, just how it could have snowballed into a path where like I just don't do any of this. So I don't know, man. That's my backstory for anybody that's listening, but I've just gotten a lot of enjoyment out of just being a multi-species angler, which is like the cool tag thing to call yourself now. But I don't know, man, I'll do it all. If there's big fish involved, I'm all for it. I don't care what the discipline is. So, but it just went from chasing fish and sleeping in a single cab Ford Ranger, and the only boat I had was a kayak, to to where it is now. So it's just cool stuff, man. But
that's kind of how I know you as. You don't want to evolve too far beyond being the guy that sleeps in his car and grinds. You know what I mean? It's like at some point you kind of lose that authenticity if you go too far beyond that. So it's like you want to continue to evolve. But I don't know. That's what I always knew you as, like the quintessential like grinder. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's funny. I'm not gonna keep going on about myself or anything, but it's funny. Grant and I were talking about these dudes that were like filming a fishing video for one of the film festivals, and they like rented this beat up vehicle for the video shoot.
Yeah.
It's like these dudes, like as soon as you learn that, you're like, wait, this isn't the car you drive. You have like a Denali or what, I don't know what they drive, but it's like this beat up ass fishing vehicle isn't your like thing. I've been considering buying a new truck and all this. I'm like, I think that I should just settle into that's my vehicle. This is what I do.
Drive it till the wheels fall off.
Put a new motor. Yeah. Put a new motor in it. Keep fixing it. Just that's I don't know. The less money you spend on new vehicles, the more money you have for travel. So that's literally the way my entire life has been structured. So I don't know. It's just funny you mentioned that, but
when I hear you describe that, my first like thing that I wonder about, like, I feel like the people that are like hyper competitive like that sometimes are more likely to be the ones who settle on one fish. Like, I want to be the best at something. You can't be the best at catching all the fish.
Yeah.
It's just too subject to debate. You can be the best bass angler, at least by the end of a year. So it's like, that's what I always thought was interesting about you, is like, I know that like you and I actually, we are similar in a lot of ways, but we differ in a few interesting ways. And then I feel like you're a little bit more, I don't know, you're more like, there's certain objectives that you have that are, mine are more gray and fuzzy, but it's like, I always wonder why you had decided that like why was bass fishing just not good enough? Like, why was, I don't know, whatever fishing not good enough? Why couldn't you just be like, the football player in me drives me to be the best. Like I would feel like the tournament scene would be more better for like somebody like that. But you just keep you keep moving the bar, like you keep moving your own bar.
Yeah, I pull the rug out from
You're
under
torturing yourself.
Every time I get mild success, I pull the chair out from under, and I got to start all over.
Good job, you won.
Yeah,
keep going.
Start over. Yeah, I don't know, man. I have a creativity streak in me that I've always had. Like I did the art in high school and like all that. You know, it's the same reason I like editing videos and. Same reason I do any of this stuff. Like I have this creativity streak that needs to be like exercised. So I think that's just part of it. Like you get focused on one thing too long, it's like this shit. Like I don't know.
You know what's you know what's funny that you mentioned that? I hate to just dive in when you say that, but it's funny that you mentioned that. I almost like wanted to have a whole conversation about this. I have noticed just in this short journey I've been on the podcast I'm doing now with these different guests. None of them have been a stranger to me so far. The guys that I brought on have been people that I've been watching for years, but I don't know anything other than the fish. Like, you know, like I was telling the last guy I was just talking to, is like, we live in this like swipe right. Like I want to be entertained. I want to see, I need gratification from you. I want to see your big fish. And now I'm like, a lot of these guys that I've been swiping right on for all these years, I'm finally getting to learn who they are. It's been so much fun. It's been like such an awesome thing. But there's like this weird common theme that I keep noticing with some of them is a lot of them have that same thing. They're artists. A couple of them are musicians. The last guy I talked to is a carpenter. They're all people who have like a trade or a skill or like a passion that involves like creativity. I'm like, that's interesting. I feel like those, especially with regards to multi-species fishing, the people that appreciate variety, it seems like have like, and obviously, as you know, I have done my own little endeavors as it relates to art with the coloring books that I've done. It's very interesting. I feel like there's something to that.
I think like, I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg. I don't know if you have the creativity and then you do the fishing, or the fishing sparks creativity. I don't know which one's which. But I think as anglers that do like just a shotgun myriad of different things, like Andrew Bunker, for example, going from long nose gar to Arctic char to, you know, everything under the sun. I think we're subconsciously, like without even knowing it, we're downloading all of these visuals into our brain, all the places we've been, all the experiences we've had. And it just, it's the same. It's what they say, think globally, act locally. It's the same type thing. Like you're getting out and you're seeing the world and you realize there's more to the world than just, there's more to the fishing world than just going down to your local bass lake and trying to catch a 5-pounder as opposed to a 4-pounder. But it's same with like the video editing and stuff. You have all this like stuff built up and all of these visuals in your brain. And like, I know for me, like say when I was in Idaho, I walk up to the edge of a canyon and I look at it and it's beautiful. But then my brain goes, if I fly that drone 2 foot away from that waterfall, it's going to get the craziest footage. It's just, I think the way we express it is different, you know, like coloring books or video or writing or whatever. I think the way we output that is different, but the way we input it is very similar. I think we do it subconsciously.
The eagerness to share it is the interesting thing too, is because you could very easily just absorb all that for yourself and then not. But I think you got an eagerness to share it much more so than just taking the pictures. Like when you look at that, you're like, people need to see this as purely and as vastly as I can possibly convey it. And whether you do that through videography or like you mentioned with Andrew Bunker, while he's not a videographer, dude is a really, really solid writer. If you take a little bit of time to read his the written word, like his ability to like describe things is a picture. That is a really tough skill, to write something so vividly that the person reading it feels like they're there. It's like that's a hard thing, and he's he's good at that, and he's a good photographer. So like that's his artistic thing. And I know there's been other guys like they're good like artists, as in like pen, paper, painting.
Mm-hmm.
There's writing. There's videography as an expression of art. Photography is an expression of art. Musicians, Dave Hurley, who I just had on. Well, that one's coming yet to be released. Big time musician, big time into like music. It's not a talent that I have, but I can certainly appreciate it. Yeah. It seems like that's a common thing with a lot of the multi-species guys I've talked to, is like they're all musicians, they're writers, they're photographers, they're videographers, they're musicians.
Right.
Pretty cool.
Like I said, I don't know if you have that in you and that's why you become a multi-species fisherman, or you do all these things and then you become, I don't know.
Well, let's think of the nature side of it. If you're an artistic person or you appreciate details or like beauty and things, you're going to gravitate towards nature. And I think it's like, if you ask, did the chicken come before the egg or whatever, I feel like there's inherent characteristics people are born with. Because you'll see these kids, you'll see kids that naturally, like if you put them out on a playground, they'll be the one that's off on his own kicking rocks. They'll be the one that's off competing and wanting to play sports. They'll be the one that's off building a fort. It's like I swear, like you'll see kids that are like way ahead of their time that naturally gravitate. Like this was never me, for instance, but like my uncle, and the stories that my mom tells me, he's like this big time engineer now. But I was told when he was young, no one else in the family is an engineer, a builder, or a creative person. For whatever reason, he alone was like isolated, and apparently it was from the day that he could start grabbing things. He was very much into taking things apart, putting them back together. I feel like there's an inherent characteristic, and like I don't know, I don't want to venture too off topic, but I feel like, and then like let's say you're a parent, like me, I have kids, so every day I get to kind of watch like what their natural characteristics are. And it's like, okay, she's really into nature. I need to like cultivate and facilitate that. She's very much into art. I need to, like, that's her thing. I got to push her towards that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of interesting.
There is some upbringing that plays into all of this for sure.
Yeah, like you have to have opportunity to like.
Yeah, like absolutely. There was a 5-year age gap above me and below me in children in my family. Like I had cousins that are older, and then the next below me is my younger brother who's 5 years younger. So I spent a lot of like those childhood years pretty like just hanging out on my own, like going fishing the farm ponds by myself, like just doing I think you kind of sort of touched on some of that with the last episode in the boat, and like you just go off on your own and you do that. And like I do that now as an adult. Like I'm zero problem loading my stuff up and like driving solo to the middle of nowhere. And Harley, who we mentioned at the beginning of this, she's like, aren't you like, I don't want you to be by yourself. Aren't you like lonely? Like I can't wait to get away from everybody.
Yeah, no.
And then, then you got other fishermen that like, they're not like that. So they kind of like take it personal. Like, why don't you ever fish with anybody? It's like, dude, it's just a different thing. Like you pair that sort of thing with like the goal oriented thing. And like, I am solo flying 99% of the time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like when the interest is expressed at the young age, somebody's got to afford the opportunity. So like to your point, the same thing with me, the interest was naturally there in animals and wildlife, but my older brothers afforded me the opportunity to kind of express that more by letting me, like I mentioned in the last episode, hop on the back of their bike and taking me and giving me the opportunity. Same with my parents. The interest was there to like be in nature. They had no qualms about saying, okay, well, we'll go drop you off out here in the middle of absolutely nowhere and we'll be back in 5 hours. Some parents may not do that. If you said, I'm interested in going and catching venomous snakes.
Yeah.
A lot of parents might be like, that ain't happening. And here's all the dangers. That's Satan. And it's like,
it's just like the
opportunity wasn't given to them to.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, like the whitewater people, we have whitewater running right through the middle of downtown Richmond. And like when the river gets high, all the whitewater people go out and like then the news reports on it like it's some brand new thing that's never happened before. You have all the people, they should be arrested. They are putting first responders in danger. And it's if you click on their profile, it's very clear that these people are just
Oh,
inside people
I'm
never
I'm
going.
always a comment section
Yeah.
browser. It's an
Yeah.
unhealthy habit. It's a
Yeah.
bad place to go.
Yeah.
Stay out of the comments. But I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
anytime I see a topic that I know is going to be subject
Yeah.
to that kind of I don't know, debate, I go
Yeah.
straight to the comments. I'm like, let
Yeah.
me look for the first hater, click on them and see
Yeah.
if they look as it's just like when you're driving in your car and the
Yeah.
person behind you is driving like a jackass.
Yeah.
I like to let them pass so I can look to
Yeah.
see if they look as stupid as they drive.
Yeah.
Let me look
That,
how
that,
dumb this person looks.
that's the funny thing, man. It's funny you mentioned that because it's literally like the people that
Yes.
have problems with like living outside of your comfort zone, they're always those people that are coddled and then they make their children coddled and then so on and so forth. You have a bloodline that's never done anything cool.
Sad.
Yeah. Anyway, well, let's not get on that. Why don't you expand on? I already spewed my whole story. So what? Do expand on your childhood and then up to basically where we are now.
Sure.
For
I know I touched it a little bit on in the last episode. I do not like talking about myself. I don't know why. Maybe I should like.
I gotta
Maybe
pry
I should like.
it out of you.
Maybe I need to conflate my story and make it sound more badass.
Yeah,
But
you just
spoiler alert, folks.
Yeah.
It ain't that great. Like it's pretty normal. Or maybe I sell myself short. I think
you
I've
sell
done
yourself short.
I've done
You sell
some
yourself short.
I've done some cool things. My existence was very much one of like sort of like you said isolation,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that allows creativity to flow. If you're not suppressed by group thought,
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Group thought is good to a point to where you can hear different perspectives, but it's bad to a point that it can wall in your own creativity. If you feel like you need to be part of that group, it might make you change what you want to do. But me, because we moved so often, I look at that as like a great thing of my childhood. It's like good and bad. We moved a lot. Like we just grew up moving all the time, always like every 3 to 4 years, moving. So it prevented me from making like lifelong friends. I made good friends, but it's like you'd go through those cycles of being the new guy. And being the new guy sucks, especially when you're an introvert and you're like scared to talk. I know it doesn't sound like I rattle off like this. Man, you put me into a groups because you're another angler.
Yeah.
You put me in front of people that I don't have much in common with. I just have a really hard time in like bridging that gap. So every time we got moved, and they were like vast moves, like we'd go from South Carolina to Texas, like halfway across the country.
What was the deal with that? Is it like work or something?
My dad. Well, I'll just say this. My dad is a problem solver.
Okay.
And he solved problems at home quickly and efficiently.
Okay.
We got out of line. We got in line quickly.
Discipline, sure.
And so his career was such that if there was a plant or there was a location that had some structural and organizational changes that need to happen.
I see, right.
He was a change agent. He'd be sent there and basically fix the problem. So let your mind wander. But I would just say this. I don't think if he's probably laughing because he's like, that ain't true. But what I know of the job that he did and now being in a career where those people might come to my location, you don't want them coming.
Right.
Then anyway, change agent. So it's a lot of
he's a culture change. He's big time change.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, sometimes that also meant getting moved to horrible places like Borger, Texas, up in the Panhandle, like oil country.
Dude, I drove through that. There's nothing out there. If there's anywhere in the country you're gonna get abducted by an alien, it is the Texas Panhandle at night. It is dark, man. It's crazy.
Talk about man. It's just a social setting from hell too. And it was just like, so I get thrown there like, oh, you talk funny. You got you're weird. I'm like, this sucks. I hate people. Yeah. I'm like, so it's like, I very much was like all to me and myself, and just it was my thing that I wanted to go out and explore nature. So on the flip side, it was good because every time we moved, it was like, awesome. I got a whole new place to explore. So like in Borger, Texas, even though I didn't like going to like school and making friends, I did enjoy hopping my fence. And like we lived on a prairie. It was just like, that's all Borger is. It was just like vast. It looked like if a nuclear bomb went off, it was like what the landscape would look like 20 years later. It was just this
Yeah.
desolate landscape, but it was like there was rattlesnakes everywhere. There was prairie dogs. I was trying to trap them. We'd catch
It's
those
tough
like
for a fisherman, though.
Yeah, well, I didn't fish at that point in time. That wasn't even on the radar yet. But it was like I go out and catch like the snakes and my big thing there was flipping cow shit. That was the brightest part of my weekend was taking a stick and going out. I'd go out into the pasture with a stick and flip cow turds because like the dried up ones, you got to think out there though. There's no shade.
Right.
There's no moisture. There's no escape from the intense heat out there. So all the animals, especially like reptiles, if they wanted moisture and they wanted shade, they'd nestle up underneath the dry cow shit because that was the only moisture. So I'd go out there and I'd take sticks and I just go cow shit flipping because there's a fair chance there might be something interesting under there.
Oh my God. Imagine if you never moved.
What'd you do this weekend? Like, that's me. But so anyway, I just loved being outside. And the fact that my parents let me go do that, like the stuff that I would drag home by the tail. Like I caught wild rabbits with my bare hands when I was like 9 years old. I was just bringing crap home and I loved it. And so anyway, then it never had time to get old because we'd move and be a whole new thing. Yeah. And so it was like, ultimately my brothers got into fishing and I was just this wild child, like wild, crazy outdoor kid that like, you got to think if it was in my DNA to go flipping cow shit and have a fun with it. Yeah. I know it was, I was pretty easily entertaining outside. So when I got thrust into environments that were more dynamic, where there's a stream and there's a swamp and there's a pond and there's things to explore and there's a railroad track and I could wait on trains to come by and throw rocks at it. Like it was an awesome time. Right. I loved it. And so my brothers got into fit. My dad fished. Right. But it was like, normal fishing. We go to ponds and go bass fishing. Yeah. And like I expanded on last time, it was like when they started fishing, they were just my vehicle to go like expand my reaches beyond what's in my garden, what's in the backyard, what's over the fence, what's 2 streets down. It's like as I got older and my range was expanding, I could use my brothers as a vehicle to go to these places. And then at some point in time, they encouraged me to actually use the fishing rod. Yeah. I like to tell this story. This is one of my favorite fishing stories. My brother Matt will love this one because I've told it. It's like our ageless classic story that we always talk about because he loves to take credit. Like, I am the one that got you. I taught you how to fish. Right. Our first ever real experience fishing together was pure hell for me. Right. My brother Matt used to beat my ass. He was the worst big brother imaginable. He was pure hell to be under the same roof with. Like he would send me to my room. He'd like, go to your room. And I was like too little and pathetic to fight. I couldn't fight back. I couldn't tell him no because the alternative was get beat up. So I'm like, you suck. And and then I'd go to my room because he sent me there. And anyway, he took me fishing in some neighborhood when we were living in Oklahoma. I was like, I don't know how old I was, 9, around there. There was like these rich people's neighborhood, and we would sneak in there because they were loaded with fish. Right. So we went out there. He demanded that I come fishing with him. And I think in his mind, he was doing the big brotherly thing, like taking the little one, teaching him how to fish. But like, he didn't have his patience down. Like he was not prepared to be an instructional figure for fishing. Sure. But anyway, so as luck would have it, we're fishing and he ain't catching shit. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm like casting and hooking my own underwear and like pulling out like dumb stuff. I didn't know what I was doing, but I kept catching fish over and over and over. I was just ripping them left and right. I would like cast and it would be bomb off to the wrong direction. I'd be looking this way and like the bait would be behind me and I'd still hook them. I was just catching fish. Like it was like the ultimate beginner's luck. Have you ever taken a new person fishing and they just have this magical ability to catch fish? Harley. That literally was me. Went shad fishing in front of this giant group of people. I'm showing her how to do everything, catching them left and right. I can't catch shit. It's just, that happens all the time. I was on fire this day, and my brother was not cheering me on. His response to my success was extreme jealousy and anger. Right. He was so angry that he couldn't catch one that he literally punished me, and he First thing he tried was, give me that damn rod. And he switched rods and he started fishing. Still couldn't catch anything. First cast with his rig, bam! I'm like,
Yeah.
come on! So
Right.
then he gets pissed off and takes both rods and doesn't let me fish.
Right.
Like I could have very easily just decided, like that could have
This
been my
sucks.
that could have been my moment to decide fishing sucks.
Yeah. Oh
But
my
maybe I
gosh.
guess I realized, hey, maybe this is something I might be good at.
Hey.
But I love to tell him that. I love to remind him that story. I'm like, he's like, I taught you how to fish. I was like, my first experience fishing with you was the worst experience ever.
Could have traumatized you for
coach
life
of all time.
That's so funny.
He was mad that I was catching them and he wasn't.
Yeah, it sounds about right. That's a brother thing to do.
I don't really
sure.
know where to go from there. The rest was just sort of, a momentum of a building of that. So it's like I just began, as you get older and mature, I still love like wildlife. That's why a big part of the reason why I go fishing is still to a point. It's a reason for me to go outside.
Yeah.
But I don't know, dude. It's like I get into these like stressful, sometimes stressful jobs, monotonous jobs, or high stress, like in law enforcement or what I do now in manufacturing. It's like monotonous or stressful. Yeah. So it's like I need like I need something to reset me and rebalance me and like engage my conscience. Like that side of me needs to be spoken to, or I will go insane.
Mm-hmm.
And
I can relate to that because you have that balance with fishing. Like your life's really stressful, and fishing kind of eases you off. And being a painting contractor every day of my life is incredibly
we've
boring.
Had those conversations. I know you vented to me, and I'm like, don't worry, bro,
sucks.
You'll be all right.
Yeah, but it's like incredibly boring. It's like, okay, I need to go do something cool so I don't jump off this bridge. So yeah, I think that's why we've finally, I mean, we've talked about it for years, like finally started the website and the podcast and like the brand overall. I know you have your Boundless Pursuit stuff you're doing. Mm-hmm. The Have Rods Will Travel. We're kind of doing it in tandem. And then the show that we've been filming, it's all born out of us not wanting to get stuck in these jobs that we like,
Yeah.
I
don't want to make it sound totally self-serving. Like while it is an opportunity to potential, if with a little bit of faith, maybe there'll be a monetary benefit. But a lot of it too, it comes from, I mean, I think it stems, and I think I speak for both of us, it stems from a genuine place of like, it's something that I love so much.
Yeah.
But like, I really am eager to share it because we're doing a kind of fishing. A lot of the times you and I are doing a fishing, especially my history anyway, being that I've kind of gravitated towards the lesser promoted fish. When you do that kind of fishing for like rough fish or other species, you almost start to feel like you have a cause.
Yeah.
Like if I'm fishing for bass, I don't necessarily have a cause because everybody loves them. But it's like it's kind of I don't know. It's an added layer to it that makes it more dynamic and interesting to me. That feel like I'm doing something that like there's an opportunity to like change perspective or to like promote something that needs to like to grow something. So then there comes, all right, well, I've been sort of, well, people might laugh at this. I express myself better through words, like written words. It's like I want to write about what I like to do. I want to share what I do. Yeah. And while I'm pretty good with writing and I'm okay with other things, the videography and teaming up with you, you're shouldering that natural artistic ability that you've developed to share information through more visual things. So I think what we're building has the potential to be something pretty special.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. It's not, none of this is coming from a monetary standpoint. We're coming from the standpoint of, we work these jobs that, we've worked them our whole lives, but I'm sure you'll relate to this in some capacity. I feel like I have been put on this planet to promote those fish and like open people up to this world that I've enjoyed so much. I don't think I've been put on this planet to be a house painter. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like we've started this entire brand to try to like dedicate as much, at least I have. I don't want to speak for you, but from where I'm at with my like day job and like my two sides of my life that I constantly try to balance. Like every time I go to work to like paint somebody's house, I'm like, this isn't like, I don't feel it. Like my heart's not in it. You know what I mean? Like my heart's in going and catching these crazy fish and like showing them to the world and like promoting the alligator gar or the white
Yeah.
sturgeon, like being able to use my personality and like my knowledge and promote this fish species to the world. And I want to do that as much as possible. I feel like I've been put here to do that, not be a house painter. You can give me $1,000,000, I'm going to spend $1,000,000 on fishing. It's just the way it is. Like
Yeah.
money is nothing to me other than a means to an end. You have a family and like a bunch of other stuff that you are responsible for, but it's literally just me and Harley, and like I
Yeah.
don't have offspring I have to make sure don't die. So like from my standpoint, if you give
Well,
me X amount of dollars, I'm going to spend X amount of dollars on like doing this passion. So
I imagine sometimes when have looked at the photos that you've sent me of you looking like you're just pure hell painting somebody's hot ass garage.
yeah.
Yeah, creative juices are probably flowing
Yeah.
very strongly in that moment because if you're super duper comfortable, I don't know, monetarily or lifestyle or with a career that's very comfortable and just easy to like, it's like laying in a cozy bed. What reason do you have to get up?
Right.
I imagine if there's any, if you're making lemonade here out of lemons,
Yeah.
the painting thing and the moments that suck have probably driven the creative juices more than anything else, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, not to bring it down or anything, but like it was a family business. My dad got me into it. Like I've worked for him for the past 12 years, 10 years, however long I've done it. He recently passed away. And now I'm like looking at myself in the mirror, like, okay, if you're not going to do this now, like, when are you going to do it? You know what I mean? And I'm trying to find as much silver lining in that situation as I can, which there's not a lot because, you know, he's the one that got me started with the painting and the fishing. So it was a big hit personally. But like, I look at what happened. It's like, okay, he would want you to do this. Like, if you're not going to do it now and like you're not going to use this as a catalyst to jump off the cliff and like put 100% effort into this, when are you going to do it? You know what I mean? And that's kind of like, that's where I am lately with it. That's why I've been hyper fixated on like driving the ball forward and like getting the website going, doing these podcasts, getting the show filmed, going and catching these fish. It's like, okay, he would want me to do this. There's no reason for me to continue being a house painter because the you know the reason why I was doing it's no longer here. So it's like, get this shit going. So that's just where I'm at with it. But
it's an interesting thing. You always have to find the perfect balance of like setting things in motion and letting them develop organically, but also not being that lackadaisical that you need to say, hey, by this date, we need to accomplish this. It's like, if you do that too much, though, you create like stressors that create anxiety and make it a not so fun process. So it's like, you don't want to be too loose with it and say, let's just put it out there and let it become what it does. But you also don't want to say, it has to be this by this date and by that date. Otherwise, you're kind of like forgetting the point. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why the two of us, I feel like, kind of complement each other in that regard.
Yeah.
But
yeah, man. I mean, that's just, I don't know. I'm using that as like the catalyst to like you said, I had a comfortable life where I started painting and I blinked my eyes and 10 years later I'm still doing it. It's like, this isn't what I had in mind. So, you know, now it's like you try to do it. And that's the same reason why, like, I stress about all the little details with like the podcast and like the website. We need this for the web. Like, I want everything to look good and be good. And like, I want this to be a premier thing. Like, I want this to be a brand, like, you know, an in fisherman or whatever, like a Barstool Sports, this big name. Like, we have cultivated just within the past, you know, couple months that we've been doing this, we've cultivated some really good talent. Like, a lot of the guys are my friends in general. So it's like, you know, but because I'm in the game I'm in and you're in the game you're in, like the friends we have, are really good fishermen. So it's like, okay, then you look at guys like, a Kevin Whitley or a Casey Reed or Pat, Grant, any of us. Like, I feel like certain people are being overlooked in the fishing world, and it's like, you know, Kevin has done all this crazy cool stuff, and same with all the rest of the guys we have, and it's like, I want to do whatever I can do to put those guys on, because those guys, they're not the YouTube what's up guy, like they're not those dudes that are like, it's kind of corny and like they're not really catching anything. These dudes have been for years going out there and catching these big fish, and like, it's kind of the tide comes in and all boats rise. I want that to happen. I want to put these guys on just as much as I want us to be successful. I want these other guys to be successful too, because they deserve it. They've done cool stuff that the world needs to see. So bringing them on and like having these different personalities and these different like takes on fishing, like catching giant red drum out of a kayak and like doing all this wild and crazy stuff in the early 2000s when it wasn't even a thing yet.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, Kevin,
I remember you showing me that kayak Kevin guy stuff a long time ago.
He's what, dude? I gotta have him on our podcast sometime, because he is the most unique individual I think I've ever met. And I literally, these podcasts are turning into like a Kevin praise hour like lately, but legitimately, dude, like, he was a Marine that like does yoga and has paddled from Florida to Virginia multiple times, and then like
that's awesome.
Like, kayak fishes where we were fishing the red drum this spring when you came up here, and all that, the shoals, like the super dangerous water that we didn't want to get into. They were paddling kayaks into that, anchoring up and catching reds in that. Like, just this dude took out like a $10,000 loan and bought a bunch of camera equipment and like filmed all this stuff and made DVDs. Like, he was pre-YouTube. So like, if he did that stuff in like 2012 or 2014 when it exploded, the dude would not be working a day job. Like, there's all these guys that are really good fishermen, like what we've been talking about just now. They're amazing fishermen, and they're doing this other thing. Like, they have a landscaping company, or they're driving for UPS, they're working a factory, they're a painter, but they're amazing fishermen, and like, they have all these unique perspectives and all this stuff to give the world from an entertainment standpoint, a knowledge standpoint. Like, there's so much just character in these guys. Like, I want the world to see that. So, and if it blows up and they still want to work for UPS or still want to work a factory job, by all means, but I want that to be an option for these dudes, because they deserve it so much. And that's just where that's in my heart, producing this stuff. That's where it's coming from. Like, I want the world to see these badass dudes that have gotten very good at their craft. And, some of them I know more than others, like, Ellis. I don't know Ellis that well. Like, I kind of just met him, but you've talked to him a bunch. And same with Pat. But you can see their passion.
Ellis is a really interesting one. That episode for my podcast hadn't come out yet, but I know I've kind of gone the direction of like super wild and crazy, awesome catches from some of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
People who've done crazy traveling and caught these giant mega fish. Now, his story's not as much that way, but dude, I want to tell you, like, that was probably one of my favorite conversations I've had so far. And this is, he's a guy who has 300 followers on Instagram. It didn't matter. You know what I mean? Like,
he's just getting started.
When I was talking to him, I'm like, I'm like, I could fish with this dude. He's like just relaxed. He's chill. He was a cool, just good dude. And like, I mean, and I'm not going to give like spoilers, but I mean, he's a Georgia boy that's been out fishing way out west. Just goes out there just alone.
Yeah.
On these massive, like, long hikes.
I think that resonates with all of us. I mean, it resonates with you and me. Just packing up all your crap and just driving to Texas solo to go float a river for days. And same with Steve out in Idaho. This dude's catching 8-foot sturgeon from the kayak, just like no big deal. It's like, dude, I had a phone conversation with
Another
Steve
guy
the
with
other day.
a creative edge too. Another guy with a
Yeah,
skill to build and make.
yeah, he's making rod boxes like your big name clamshell style like fishing rod boxes for like your car or trailers and stuff. He's like this incredible metal fabricator, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like starting this business up to like do that. Like I
Yeah,
want to
that's
facilitate
cool.
the success with that. But I got on with Steve the other day, and I got on to him like, dude, you need to be fishing more. You're catching 8-foot sturgeon out of a cat. Like, you need to be doing this. What are you doing? Like, go fish more, Steve. And it's just, they just everybody, because I think because we are so isolated and we're not social butterflies in the fishing world. We're not these dudes out like yucking it up and fishing with 15 people in a week and all that, because we're kind of solo dudes. The guys we do attach to resonate with us, and
Mm-hmm.
like they are super creative, and they're heavy hitters, man. These
Yeah.
Each dude, like Casey with his tournament angling and all this stuff, man, they all bring their own unique like power to the table, and they have so much to give the angling world, and there's great cool guys. So that's just the whole
Well,
that's kind of the whole reason for the website and all the stuff, to give those guys a platform.
yeah, and I'm
So
glad that you're mentioning that. A big motivation behind, well, I feel like a motivation driver. You know my history in the last 2 years. I
mhm.
got to a point where I really wanted to like reach out to some of these more established media outlets.
Yeah.
And I had a period where, you know, I mean, I really enjoy writing, and I feel like I write about some types of fishing in a market
Mhm.
that hasn't been captured yet, that's
Yeah.
waiting to burst onto the scene. And so, my frustrations. I went through a period where
Yeah.
I was reaching out to so many magazines,
Yeah.
so many like companies, like offering, like
Yeah.
I will give you content on these things.
Yeah.
And let's say I say, I'd love to write a piece on hookless nylon rope lures for longnose gar. It's
Yeah.
something like that. And I couldn't believe how many times the idea gets shot down.
Yeah.
Or, it's like, nah, we're not looking to do that right now. No, we don't want to do that. I understand that. If you have a voice, like you're trying to stay consistent with your brand, I get that to a
Mhm.
point. But it's like this sheer like institutional unwillingness by a lot of these brands to
Yeah.
expand out beyond and do
Yeah.
something that's, I don't know,
It's just archaic. They
different.
they yeah, they don't know. The tide is turning on all that. There's way more guys interested in fishing for bowfin and gar and stuff than there's ever been.
Mhm.
The tide's turning. They're no longer trash fish, throw them on the bank
Yeah.
first, you know, sport fish second.
Yeah.
Like that it's shifting, and they just don't see that yet.
Yeah.
How many jerkbait bass fishing articles are you going to write for your website? How many trolling for walleye? How many jigging for perch? And that's
I
just the
think
thing, dude.
there's gotta be an effort to do something different. Like,
Yeah.
people want to see something different at least every now and then. But and then, as you know, I went through a period that process. I went through
Yeah.
straight up a hiring process, like through the stages of
Yeah.
interview and everything with a I'll just say a major publication
Hmm.
name.
Yeah.
Um and it was cool. I'm grateful for the opportunity to even have gotten as far as I did.
Yeah.
But then, you can't help but to look and be like, all right, well, I didn't get it, so who did? And
Yeah. And
it's
communi-
a young, essentially a kid, fresh out of
communications
school.
degree, communications degree, or no, creative writing degree,
Hmm.
zero fishing experience,
And
but let's write about fishing.
I don't want to, I do that, and then I run the risk of sounding like I think it is awesome. I'll
Yeah.
say this: I'm very happy for that. Like, I'm very happy when a young man enters into the job market and lands
Yeah.
their dream job.
Yeah.
It's great. My thing is, I have a great career to fall back on that's making me a lot of money. But I'm just like,
Yeah.
you look at that and it's like, is there an avenue for me if that's gonna if that's gonna
Yeah.
if we're looking to do that and we're valuing, I don't know,
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, you don't even get a foot in the door because you don't have that create. Like they
Yeah.
look, they
And I
weigh.
don't want to say it's because
Yeah,
you don't
yeah,
have that. He may have had something. I'm just
I
you look
know.
at that and you wonder.
This is purely me speaking. From my perspective, seeing that type of situation, not saying this is what happened with you or anything, but seeing that, it seems like simply having that creative writing degree is weight, like carries more weight than 25 years of fishing experience and a website. It literally, like, examples of your writing for the past decade. Like, it just,
Yeah.
like, come on, man. Like, okay, cool, you have a degree, but there's literally proof of doing it, and you have all the knowledge to back it up. So it's like I've
Yeah.
had this. I've been saying this mantra, which I don't know if I've said it around you, but I've been saying it to myself. Like, we've run into the situation a couple times where, like, you think you're gonna have some help and you just don't. No big deal. Like, you think you have inside scoops and, like, somebody's gonna extend the olive branch and you're gonna be, maybe you have a foot in the door, but you don't. You think you do, you don't. If nobody's gonna open that front door for you, if nobody's gonna open the door, build your own house. You know what I mean? And that's kind of been how
Mhm.
I've been approaching all this. If they won't let us in the door, we're gonna build our own house. You don't want to have us on your, like, like, what more proof do you need that we have
Yeah.
the experience and we can do these things? If you're not going to let us into the club, then we're just going to do our own thing, and then we'll see what happens 5 years from now.
I think that the reality of that situation that I was just talking about is not
Yeah,
like when I think realistically about it and I ponder about it, it's good to be smart about it because otherwise you can
yeah,
get bitter and that's not a good place. It's not a good mind. It's not a good
yeah.
place to be mentally. But when I think of the reality of what would have happened if, let's say, I did get the position,
Right.
to think that I would have had like featured columns about alligator gar and bowfin
Yeah,
is pretty naive. The
yeah,
reality of the position would have been very much the proverbial carrying of bags.
yeah,
It would have
yeah.
been saying, listen, that's cool that you do all that, but hey, we ain't talking about that. You're going to write about this, that, and the other. You're going
Cookie
to follow
cutter
this
content.
script. This is
Hmm.
exactly the layout of what you're going to
Hmm.
say is going to be. You're going to fit our brand. And
Yeah,
I feel like as somebody who's creative and wants to do something different, I maybe would have ended up in a position where I'd been quite let down and frustrated by it. So
yeah, yeah.
probably for the best because what we're doing
Absolutely.
now, I think, is like, well, at least it's like I can jump in here and I can write about what I want to, and bringing
Yeah.
in other people who want to do that. It's not.
Well,
It's
for
more
sure.
fun. It's like it's I don't know. You take more pride in something that you're developing. So
Your destiny is in your hands at that point. And that's the thing, dude. Like, I don't get bitter. I bitch a lot, but I don't get bitter. I just use that as motivation. You know what I mean? Like, my entire life, no matter what it's been, life, sports, fishing, anything. That's just my mindset in general. I'm always going to bet on myself, and I'm always going to be successful, and I'm always going to prove you wrong. Like, that's just how I've always been. You're not going to catch a state record. All right, well, I'm going to
yeah,
fixate on that. You're not going to catch more just these stupid dumb things that people say. You're like, all right, well, now I'm going to fixate my entire life on this, and I'm going to make sure I do that. Like,
yeah,
same deal. I can see the relationships that have been had through the years, and then just, like, those dissolving, and you can kind of read between the lines on, like, what's happening. It's like, all right, that's fine. Like, if that's how things are going to be, then we're going to ramp this thing up. I'm going to put all the chips on the table, push them into my corner. Like, we're going for this. I'm always going to bet on myself, and I'm always going to prove people wrong. And that's just how I am. So starting this whole thing is like, it's born out of, people want more colorful fishing content. We want to put these fish on a pedestal, these alligator gar, these crazy, like, fish species that don't get talked about enough. These guys that have something to offer to the fishing world that maybe have slipped through the cracks over the years or just haven't gotten their comeuppance yet. We're going to combine all that and build our own thing. And that's just kind of where I'm at with it. And however it sounds is how it sounds, but it's born out of passion for fishing, and it's born out of the love I have for these dudes that I mean, you put enough time in, you can clearly see what it takes to be successful. I want to make those guys successful. I want to make people love alligator gar, not just shoot them with an arrow and throw them on the bank. You know what I mean? So it comes from a good place. It's just sometimes you need that jab to really get you motivated. You need that critical moment of like, all right, then we're going to do this. Like, that's how it's going to be. We're going to do this. So, that's just, and they're doing us a favor because, like you said, we're doing our own thing because of all this stuff. So there's no bitterness there. There's no hard feelings or anything. It's just like, give us the motivation we need to really run it up. So
right,
it's just where it comes from.
I mean, the Have Rods Will Travel website is now launched. I mean, at the time that we're talking about this, it's there. But all the puzzle pieces aren't quite there. But I think it's already a pretty dynamic thing between the various voices through writing, the different podcasts, the personalities involved in it. But the real breadwinner, and the topic that I know people are going to be asking, because people who followed it long enough, there's plenty of people who don't even know what we're talking about. Maybe they're interested, but there's also people who do know that you and I have been working on the video project. I don't know even how many episodes we want to go with this thing, but the multi-episode series that we're working on, because you know we've got the writing, we've got the audio, but the thing that everybody's going to want to see, and the people who don't know what's coming, I mean, I'm talking about the visual experience. And I think what we've captured on film is going to be really, really. I'm so excited to get that thing going. But it's like all things like this need the proper amount of time put into them.
So, if you have no idea what we're talking about, I'll give you the background. So, we have the Have Rods Will Travel website. It has all the articles, some video, all that stuff. That's kind of a hub, more or less, for everything. So check that out. We have all the individual podcasts we're doing. Should be 4 of them. And those are on Spotify and all the places you get podcasts, and YouTube, HRWT Studios, a lot of good stuff there. But the kind of like linchpinned all this thing, all of this was born out of the Have Rods Will Travel, like quote unquote TV show that we're working on. And we've started filming everything in 2021, September of 2021. I had this giant pie in the sky that we're going to get like a dozen episodes filmed, and like quickly realized that's not going to happen.
1 year. I was the detractor that was like, that ain't happening. Ain't no way we're getting that done in 1 year.
Definitely more realistic from that standpoint. I get like just charged up and ready to do it. I'm like, we're just going to film it, But essentially what it is it's going to be a multi-episode deal. It's going to be seasonal, so there's going to be seasons to it. It's going to be episodic, so it's going to be multiple episodes. And the like kind of main goal is to get it on Amazon Prime Video. And the whole reason for that is they have kind of a creators thing the same way that YouTube does, except it's just like it's like one level up from YouTube. So, we filmed all this stuff. I could easily edit it all and throw it on YouTube, but then it kind of gets like lost in the wash of just all there's 1,000 fishing YouTube videos uploaded in a day. So this is kind of the idea behind it is there's a little bit deeper of a vetting process trying to go to like an Amazon Prime. So you have to have your like P's and Q's. Everything's got to be buttoned up, ready to go. So like I can't just edit one and like put it out. I have to have them all edited, packaged. You send it to them. They sort of vet it, give you feedback on like, what needs to happen so it, fits or it works well. And then it gets put on their streaming platform. So our game plan right now, I think, is to get 6 episodes. I think that's a lot more realistic. We have 5 filmed so far. So we have Alligator Gar, which we have multiple big alligator gar on film. We have white sturgeon, which we have giant white sturgeon on film. Super cool. Goliath grouper. We got catching them from the beach. That's awesome. Smallmouth buffalo and carp with Austin Anderson down in Texas. Literally captured one of the biggest smallmouth buffalo ever to be caught on film in that episode. So it's just crazy. And snakehead. So we kind of a dual snakehead thing. We filmed with Grant Alvis, our buddy up here in Virginia, and then we filmed for Bullseyes in Florida. And it's kind of like a contrasting episode. So like half is one, half is the other. And it's just, we've put a lot of work into it. And I know we've been kind of talking about it for like a year and a half now, but we're all funding this out of pocket. All the plane tickets are coming out of pocket, all the gear's coming out of pocket, and we still have day jobs. So it's like lining up the schedules and doing all that. And then, like you've flown up here twice in trying to get an episode filmed, and we really had we tried to do Red Drum. You know how it is. Fly up here, it's windy. Well, we're screwed. Tried to do, I think, catfish. That we literally had one of the worst storms ever last year with that had to get rescheduled. So there is some difficulty because we have day jobs and we're still working. We're just two regular ass dudes. It's hard to do that. And, we're doing it all on our own dime. We don't have sponsors yet, but I'm also doing all the editing, all the voiceover. We're not doing it all and then throwing it to a production house. All the fish are caught in house. All the stuff's filmed by us. It's all a self-produced deal. But the idea is we get season 1 done. We get it up there. We have that proof of concept. We show the world, hey, look at this cool stuff we can do. And we show companies, look at this cool stuff we can do. If you team up with us and if you help us produce season 2 and so on and so forth, all that money is going to do is allow us to carry that, concept that much further. We're going to do cooler stuff. We're going to do the South America, the England, the Wells Cats. What we need is funding to help facilitate making this the next big fishing show, because we have the eye for it from a filming standpoint. We have the talent for catching the fish and doing the whole Steve Irwin thing where you show the world the individual species. So we have all of the good stuff. It's just, it takes a long time when you're trying to do everything yourself. So it's
I was
just
surprised by how successful at least the first few episodes were. It was like, oh my gosh, we can't miss.
Yeah.
We went after alligator. Oh, I mean, that one started rough. That's the kind of the good thing is it started rough. Which I mean, people will be interested in what we had to come through to make that one happen. But at the end, it's definitely
a tale of adversity. Sure.
Yeah, at the end of all the challenge, there's multiple 7-foot long fish straight into the white sturgeon one. Yeah. Multiple 7 to 8 foot long fish. Boom, bam, one after another. Then the Goliath grouper came out. Bam, got a nice big Goliath, from land, and then
the snakehead, literally, we have. I mean, I'm sure there's better bald eagle footage out there, but we were literally,
the wildlife encounters have been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely been batting cleanup, and everything's been right down the middle. We've crushed every single episode we have so far has been a home run, and it's amazing stuff. We got a South Florida bobcat on film,
hunting iguanas in the same episode as a bald eagle hunting cat. I thought that was such a cool, just from a creative standpoint. When you talk about, so people listening, the edge on the snakehead thing, I think is so cool. What I envisioned and what we talked about, I feel came to fruition, because we're well, we should do one that's northern snakeheads and bullseyes in the same episode, because the contrast of the scenery and the style of fishing is so different. The swing of the episode will be unique, because you go to Virginia and it's this pristine waterways that haven't changed since the founding of the country. And you talk about founding of the country, patriotism, bald eagles flying by and eating native fish on the banks of the river.
Yeah.
And then, problematic blue catfish. But in
Yeah.
any sense, you get the point. It's like it was like very symbolic moment to
Yeah.
see that while we're fishing for a non-native fish. Then we're gonna pan straight over to chasing them in an urban setting behind a McDonald's, like pitch it up underneath that shopping cart. Iguanas
Yeah.
running by, iguanas being hunted. So we got bald eagles hunting catfish in one area. The next one is a bobcat hunting iguanas in
Yeah.
South
It's
Florida. It's very
native.
interesting the
Yeah.
swing.
The native
So
species taking advantage of the invasive forage that they have. I think it's just the funniest part about all this. The biggest snakehead I think we have on camera, or maybe the second biggest, is like caught while some dude is watching a Miami Dolphins game 20 feet away. It's like
oh
just
yeah.
the contrast. Like you go way back in these marshes for the northern snakehead where you don't see anybody. It's just all green. And then you're fishing canals that if you weren't 300 pounds, you could jump across. And
Yeah.
like, there's like
The
trash
guy with a
floating,
leaf blower.
a shopping cart. They're cutting up, they're like sawing trees, and like
Yeah.
some dude's watching a Dolphins game. And like, it's just nuts, man. Everything. And then even like the white sturgeon video, we have literally an 8-foot white sturgeon eating on camera. And that's with my buddy Steve Carroll talking about him being a fabricator and all this stuff. He created this camera mount, this castable camera mount, and it sets upright on the bottom. Like I haven't looked up to see if that footage is out there, but I'd wager to bet it's probably the only footage of a sturgeon of that caliber eating a bait on camera and like getting hooked.
Yeah.
Like there's that. And then you go to Texas where we got this like giant whitetail on camera, and it's just crazy. Every single thing has been just as good as it could be. And it just, when you see that, and if you watch it and you enjoy it, and then because we've talked about it, where we're trying to take this thing, I think it's nothing but a vote of confidence for people that want to invest, because it just shows that we're willing to do it, and we will get the stuff on camera. So,
well, it's been pretty dynamic too, because like there's aerial footage, there's underwater footage, there's like action shots. There's not like GoPro, but it's like very much like attempting. And I think there should be, at least for me, there's an appreciation in the fact that there's no camera crew. We're like trying to like juggle with catching the fish while simultaneously trying to capture the moment in a way that like accurately like shows what's happening. And I think so far we've done a good job. I mean, I think we've accomplished that, but it hadn't been without its challenges. But I have been very pleased with like how the successes have come, because dude, I go fishing on my own and it ain't never like that. Like, we went out there, just blasted the alligator gar. I'm like, oh my gosh, we got lucky. We got lucky again. Then we got lucky again. I'm like, geez.
Yeah.
I mean, there was the redfish story, but I mean, there was the redfish attempt, but that's not like.
That's so hit and miss in the springtime, though. Like, even if I don't know how we're going to be able to film reds being that we're so far apart. Like, I don't know how you're going to get up here to do it, because it's such a last minute thing. So it might just be one of those deals where like we have redfish as option A, and then we have something else as option B, because it's just spring and fall weather in Virginia. It's just flip of a coin. It's either going to be great or it's going to be freaking terrible. So, but we had season 2 and like stuff we're filming in the future. Like, you're talking about flathead catfish. You're talking about giant, literally the biggest red drum in the world, muskie, the big blue cats. I mean, we have all this stuff like we can dip into, and like a lot of these like monster fish shows like target the giant freshwater monster fish, but they kind of ignore some of like the mid-tier ones, like your flatheads and your blue cat. Like, how many video like episodes are we gonna get about a Mekong stingray before like, okay, we get it? Or like the Wells cat or what? I still want to film and do all those, but those are going to be mixed in with like
I think that's a lot of that is like long range objectives when it comes to international time. Hell, it's hard enough for us to it's hard enough for us to get together. in the same state, but
yeah. But I mean, that's kind of the thing,
all
though.
in
Like
due time.
all these TV shows kind of focus on the big freshwater monster fish, but like that story's been told a bunch. We have a bunch of species right here that never really get talked about. Like Jeremy Way, he did a muskie episode, but I don't know if I can't remember if they caught anything.
He did. He
Like
caught it on he caught it on like a little like lightweight
yeah,
walleye rig or something. It was a really weird one. He caught it on like
and
very
we're
light
like,
tackle, small stuff.
and then like
Really
the
weird.
one thing that comes to mind when he like actually had a flathead on camera, like he noodled for him.
Oh, noodling, yeah.
Like like the rod and reel opportunities within the lower 48 is insane. I mean, I was just talking to Keith Severns the other day. He helped me write an article. This dude gets in a float tube for trout, like the trout style float tubes with the like fins, and goes out and catches monster flatheads on artificial baits.
I've seen his
yeah,
stuff. It's
like,
crazy.
yeah, and like I'm talking to him about setting something up for maybe us to film a flathead episode. And
I would love
deal,
to do that. The stuff that y'all do with the lures for flatheads, I think that's so interesting. That even if it's not to film, like on a personal like interest thing, that's one I really, really want to do.
But you have the ones we have here, and then you have the way Keith does it, and it's a good contrast. Like that's going to be a great episode when we get around to filming it. So
yeah,
but that's the thing, man. Like that's the whole like have rods will travel like brand. I know we just kind of like adopted the name that I already had in place, but like I don't know if it gets picked up by Amazon, the name might change. I don't know, but that's kind of the brand in general. We have the like show that we're working on, which it'll go on Amazon Prime initially, but if it gets picked up or something else happens with that, cool. But then we have the website with a bunch of articles and fishing news, and it's
there's already videos on the website. Like some of those short videos are really from some of the other guys have really been entertaining for me. I can't get over the Steve Carroll. I mean, I could watch that clip of the sturgeon jumping next to that dude's kayak 1,000 times, and then him screaming at the top of his lungs.
Yeah,
if that doesn't get your blood going, I don't know what will. Every time I watch that, I'm oh my gosh.
It's funny how many viral videos are within our circle. Like you got my alligator gar thing, you have Steve's sturgeon deal, and then you have, I mean, yours wasn't fishing, but that you and your German shepherds and like the Christmas tree, like
if only it could have been fishing related.
I know, it's just funny how many like viral video, like true viral videos have been within like the kind of circle we have. But
yeah,
I don't know, man. It's all in good fun. It's just we are fishermen that love fishing and are just trying to express that to the world, and that's kind of the gist of all of this. So I think we ran a little long to really get into any storytelling, so I don't think
we always have next week. That's the beauty of this thing.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any, before we kind of wrap it up, do you have anything else you want to touch on with all that stuff?
No, not too much. I know that the video thing was if there's one thing that I've been asked about with regards to the Have Rods Will Travel deal, it's a lot of people have hit me up asking about the videos specifically. Like, when's the videos coming out? What's going on with the videos? That's it's coming, but I want people to understand, like, there's some really awesome stuff, but you don't want to rush it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is a process.
It needs to be polished. It can very easily just submit and say, you know what? Let's just go ahead and let them go. But I'd rather not do that.
The other like part about this that people may not realize is like this is the process. Like the only reason there's been such a long lead up is because we've been talking about it since day one we started. Like most TV shows and stuff, there's the same amount of time that gets put into it, but you never hear about this. It's just like boom,
with
there's
an
a show,
army of people working on it. Whereas I ain't doing no editing. I just showed up to catch fish. That's all you.
But that's how this stuff works. Is like a TV show, a successful show has this amount of like filming and editing and like lead up time, or a year and a half into doing this, but you never hear about that. The show just like, coming to Discovery Channel. It just shows up. But like, because we have like our followers and our contingency of people that like care about our fishing exploits, we like telling them what we have going on. So
We
that's
got
why
too
people
excited and we let everybody know about it.
yeah, I mean, well, screw it, dude. I mean, it just, whatever. But that's the whole deal. Like you're witnessing the entire process from a couple of dudes that are literally like doing it ourselves. So that's why there's such a long lead up to this. So hopefully, like, all that gets easier with time, and hopefully like money and sponsorships and just the ability to facilitate actually doing this, like, hopefully that amount of time shrinks. But I don't know, man. We'll see. This is all new to all of us. The website, the podcasting. We're still, every time I set this microphone and cameras up, it's like an hour-long ordeal trying to get it all tuned in. We don't know what we're doing. We are brand new at all this. We are fishermen.
You saw me out there. It was so embarrassing when we were filming. And you always wanted, you wanted to do those parts where we kind of explained what was going on. I struggled so badly to look into a camera and speak to it. And so, like, that's been my big challenge, like, on my little journey as I'm doing the podcast. I feel like I'm getting better at it, but my God, you wouldn't believe how hard it is for me to, like, look at the camera and explain it. It's so weird for me. I'm like, this is weird. I can talk to a person, but Jesus. Looking at that camera and talking.
It's being able to talk to a camera.
It's much easier now. When I first started, I could not. Oh, it was bad. I told him I was telling my wife to go away because I didn't want her to hear how stupid I look.
This is embarrassing. Please, I still do that with Harley. Don't come in here while I'm talking.
Now I'm okay with it, but boy, wow, that was hard.
But that's the outlier, though, dude. Like, nobody is going to be comfortable talking to a camera. Like Steve, I had Steve on the rim of Snake River Canyon trying to interview him, and I'm like feeding him questions, and it's like we're doing 15 takes trying to get him. Like, dude, just chill. Like, talk to me.
I'm glad I'm not the only one then.
No,
Steve,
dude,
I feel your pain.
Yeah, the only reason that I am any little bit better than anybody else is because I've attempted to have a YouTube channel for like 10 years. I have all this backlog footage of me talking to a camera, but I get to the point where it comes to producing it, and it just sits. It literally, like, I have terabytes of like hard drives of fishing videos that have just never been put out there. So it's just stupid.
Those stuff, will be invaluable one of these days.
Yeah, the classics. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's all in good fun. So if any of our stuff ever sounds weird or looks weird, we're literally winging this shit. We are figuring it out as we go.
That's been one thing I have said, and I've been very happy about with this whole thing. Is like I feel like everybody that gets into this podcasting or what have you has a starting point. It's usually kind of rough, or it's a far cry from where they're at now.
Yeah.
And so, like, when I look at ours, I'm like, okay, well, this is going to develop. This is going to evolve. Like a year from now, 6 months from now, it's going to look different. But I'm very happy with the starting point. Like, for me, that's important. It's like, I'm pretty cool with where we're beginning. I'm pretty happy with it. I've been surprised with the amount of work, but it's been a lot of like fun. So
well, that's the other thing too. Like, the deeper you get in the hole, maybe a sponsorship shows up, or you can upgrade gear, or upgrade. But you never know where any of this stuff's going to go. But like podcasting, there's people that go to school simply for like audio technical work, videography. There's literal college degrees for all the shit we're trying to do. We are simply fishermen trying to figure this out. And it is some bumps in the road.
I wish I could pay someone else to do all this crap.
Yeah,
I get so mad about it. No, it's gotten a lot of. I got a little bit of a system down now. I'm like, okay, I can ride this for a while. This ain't so bad.
Yeah, but it is what it is. It's all in due time. It's just gonna keep getting better. Just got to stick with all of it. But yeah, man, I think that's probably gonna wrap it up for us. Just to recap, if you're watching this, or if you're listening to it and you want to watch it, check out HRWT Studios on YouTube. If you're watching, but you want to listen, say you're driving, you're going fishing, you're going to work, whatever, should be available everywhere podcasts are available. So Spotify, Apple Music, I think Stitcher, Pandora, all those. But it's also available on our website. So if you go to haverodswilltravel.com/podcast, you can actually listen from the actual website. So like, and both versions are on there too. So the audio version is that feeds on there, as well as the video stuff. But while you're there, poke around the website, check out the articles and videos from all the various contributors. Sign up for the emailing list. Share this with your friends so it grows. That's just kind of where we're at with it. We're trying to get a foothold in the game. We have the social medias. We have a Have Rods Will Travel Facebook group. We have the HRWT Studios Facebook page where we do podcasts and clips and updates. We have Instagram, HRWT_fishing for article kind of updates. And we have HRWT Studios for the podcast and stuff. So literally everywhere. So it's a lot, I know, but we're trying to give people options to whatever you like. It's out there for you. And we're on TikTok with the podcast and clips too. So just search it, you'll find it, whatever you like. But I think that's it, man. I don't think I have anything else.
Me neither. All I would add to that is, like, if you do browse through this stuff, give some kind of feedback. Yeah, I think everybody involved wants to know that we're doing something that people like. So if you have constructive ideas on, or just feedback of, hey, this is what what you like, what you don't like, things you might want to hear, things you might want to see.
Topics feedback. Of discussion. Give us things to talk about. If you want us to expand on a topic or whatever, you can shoot us a DM or email haverods@gmail.com. Give us stuff to talk about. That's the whole point of doing this. So, but anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Josh Dolan. That's David Graham. And this is the Have Rods Will Travel podcast.
That will. Yeah,